Hi YouTube and welcome to my channel. My name is Patrick. I'm a cybersecurity engineer in the Midwest US, and I use an iPad as my primary computer for getting work done. Now, I know that sounds a little outlandish, you're a cybersecurity engineer. How do you do all your work from an iPad? Well, it's quite simple actually, and today I'm going to share with you exactly how I go about getting real work done on my iPad Pro. Alright, so the first thing I use it for is a communications hub. So here on my iPad, you'll see I've got all of my communication tools here in one place. So whether it's my wife texting me about something that we need, whether it's a coworker reaching out over Microsoft Teams or Slack, I have all of these communications all in one place that's convenient to access and I always have it with me. Another cool thing is in iPadOS 18, you can set up these shortcuts. So if I pull down the control center here, you'll see that I have all of these options for a sidebar. You might be wondering, what's a sidebar? All right, so if I open an application here, let's do the Files sidebar as an example. So you'll see it pulls out the Files application from the side, and I can, do what I need to do in that app without leaving the context of what I'm currently doing. So super cool. If you're interested in seeing how that shortcut works, let me know by leaving a comment down below. If there's enough interest, I'll make a video on how you can use iPadOS shortcuts in iPadOS 18. So, here's the thing about shortcuts. They're totally underrated. Shortcuts are super powerful. In fact, all of the best functionality that I have on my iPad is due to shortcuts. And you're going to see a few more of those in this video. But shortcuts are basically the iPad's equivalent of a scripting tool. You can write scripts that perform various actions inside of your applications. For example, one shortcut that I have is in the share sheet. When I go to Safari and I'm in a website, I can hit the share sheet button, and then there's a button that I added with a shortcut called Ask ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will summarize the web page for me right there without leaving the application, without copy pasting anything. It's super powerful. And shortcuts go beyond even that. With shortcuts, they can perform any action inside an application. Let me show you this. I say any action in applications, but there are some that don't support it. But just to give you an idea, I'm going to open the Shortcuts app, and here you can see we're making a new shortcut. And look at all of these applications that can integrate with the Shortcuts app. So I can perform actions in all of these applications. I want to show you A Shell. So A Shell is a terminal application for your iPad. And I'll just briefly show you its competitor, ISH. We're going to talk more about these later. But here in ISH, I can run any old Linux bash style command, and it just pulls it off perfectly. So A Shell is another such application, but it has shortcuts support. So you can see I can run any bash command right here from A Shell in a shortcut, and then I can put that shortcut in the control center. I can add it to the home screen. I can add it to the share sheet. So I can really execute any commands that I want in a Linux-like environment right here in the Shortcuts app. So the Shortcuts app is kind of like shell scripting on steroids because it incorporates shell scripting within it through the use of apps, but also it has functionality that stretches beyond just shell scripting and into the corners of almost every application. So it's a very powerful tool, and that's one reason why I use my iPad so much as a cybersecurity engineer. All right, so the second thing I use my iPad for is accessing web-based tools. So most of the tools that I interact with on a daily basis, I get to them through a web browser. So because of that, it doesn't really matter what device I'm using to access those tools. But I'll just give you a brief example. So we're going to connect to my NAS, and you can see this is my Open Media Vault NAS, which is running on a 2012 Mac Mini with a few hard drives connected over USB. Janky, I know, but it works. But anyway, I can log into my NAS here. I can do all the type of stuff that I need to do on my NAS. And that's the same story for almost every tool that I use in my day job. The security information events management system that I access, the SIEM, that's in the web browser. Checking device compliance and device health, that's in the web browser. connecting to other devices to manage them remotely. There's apps for that. So really, everything that I do as a cybersecurity engineer is about securing other devices. And because of that, I wanted something that's very secure. And the iPad is pretty much the most secure computer that I can think of. But when you're a cybersecurity engineer, you spend a lot of time managing other systems. Your job is to keep other systems, other data, the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the data and devices that you protect. And so it doesn't really matter what device you're using to do that because it's interacting with other devices at the end of the day. And you can do that from pretty much anything. So another thing that I use my iPad for is malware analysis. Now, I know what you're saying, you can't do proper malware analysis on an iPad, and you're right. But the thing is, when you're doing malware analysis in a professional context, you need to be doing it in a dedicated virtual machine that's just for that one incident. And that's because when you're investigating in a malware incident in a professional context, it's very important that you're able to preserve that evidence and maintain the confidentiality and integrity of it. And so it's important to have a separate virtual machine for every incident that you run into that requires malware analysis. This is just good practice and it keeps things buttoned up. So obviously, I can't run a virtual machine on my iPad, so I have a few servers in my living room and a few servers in the cloud, and I utilize those for malware analysis, and I simply connect to them from my iPad. Now, because when you're doing malware analysis professionally and it's from a virtual machine, it doesn't really matter what device you're using to connect to that virtual machine. They all work about the same, so it may as well be something that you trust, like an iPad. So, another thing that I do on my iPad is Devops. So, I have a passion for DevOps, and my specific poison is Terraform and Ansible. Terraform is a program that's used on the commands line to deploy servers and services. Ansible is another commands line tool that's used to configure servers and services. And not to mention Microsoft desired state configuration in Azure, Office, and Windows. That's a story for another day. But if I go into the iShell app on my iPad, you'll see I have the Terraform app right here in iShell. And from here, this is really powerful because not only do I have Terraform, I also have Git, I also have Vim, and oh, I don't have Vim, but that's very simple. I'll show you how to install it. There you go. That's all there is to it. Now I have Vim. Pretty cool, right? So obviously I'm working with some code here on my iPad, but if you're working with code, you're probably interacting with code repositories as well. Well, there's an app for that, and it's called Working Copy. I'll just pull it up here. Working Copy, there it is. And in this application, I can pull repos down, I can push them back out, and my text editor of choice is Textastic. So this is a great text editor for the iPad. It supports syntax highlighting, and it just allows me to pull repos down using working copy and then push them back up again using working copy after I edit them. Another thing that I use it for is, like I mentioned briefly, desired state configuration. So desired state configuration in the context of Microsoft products is basically PowerShell that defines the state of a service or server or workstation. And essentially, what you do is you're writing a declarative piece of code that says, this is how I want this thing to work when it's set up. This is what I want to have in the environment, and this is how I want it to be set up. And it's a great way to manage your environments. I use it to manage a test tenant where I do various pieces of analysis. And it's just a really powerful tool because it gives you a consistent and repeatable method of deploying configurations and services. So I'm not going to show you all of my desired state configuration stuff on here, but just know that I can do all of it from my iPad. So yeah, and my iPad is a communications hub. It's got shortcuts which are super powerful. I can do DevOps from it. I can write my code on it. I can interact with repos on it. I can manage other systems using remote access applications. I can get to my web-based tools. Really, this thing does everything. Like, it's capable of doing everything that I need to do 90% of the time in my day job. I mean, obviously, there's stuff like pulling down logs and then opening them in Excel. Uh, the mobile version of Excel works just fine for that. It's got pivot tables, it's got Copilot, and so I really don't have any want for any more features. It really is a great tool for me. It makes me very productive, and I'm able to get a lot of real work done on it. Anyway, thank you for watching. My name is Patrick. I hope I'll see you in the next one. If you liked the video, leave me a like. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe. And thank you again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.